Hello everyone, my name is Doug Bassett. I'm Senior Technical Instructor here at StormWind Studios. And we had a question coming in asking about how we can protect data up in Azure from things like ransomware and malware. And that's actually a really good question because right now we're at war, essentially. We have all of these hackers, and they could be individuals, they could be criminals, they could be nation states. This is Fortinet. This is showing attacks going on right now. And you can see there's lots and lots and lots. And these are just the ones that we know about. So some of the things that could happen is with malware, if it's ransomware, it can encrypt the hard drives of my machine or encrypt files, and then I have to pay a ransom and don't pay ransoms because that just encourages that. But we need to get the data back. Or we could have an administrator goes in and deletes a file. Or we could have an administrator who can't get access to the data because we're using role-based access control to keep them locked out. And so they just delete the entire storage account. And storage accounts where we store the information. So how do we protect ourselves against this, especially if we have someone who has either penetrated our systems and elevated themselves to administrators, or just administrators, or users that have inappropriate permissions, and they go in and delete stuff and modify things, and ransomware may encrypt it. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to do something called versioning. And with blobs, what blob versioning is anytime you have a binary large object, that's what blobs are. And this includes hard drives, virtual hard drives that we're using for our virtual machines. It's going to take a copy of it. And this version, if anytime you have a change, it's going to make another version. And then you make another change, it makes another version. And so this version is only going to contain the changes that was made since the previous version. Now, in this example, this version right here was the one that encrypted it. And so I can go into a previous version and say, hey, let's promote that previous version and make it the latest version. So that old encrypted version's still in there, just in case it wasn't actually encrypted or there's something else going on. But this new version is there. So now I can roll back and roll forward in time. And in fact, I can download previous versions so that I can, let me pull this file in and look at it, see which one it is. Is this the right one? So you can do all sorts of really cool things with these previous versions. But what if they delete it? Well, one of the other settings that we can do is we can do a soft delete. And what soft delete does is it makes it so that if you delete something, it'll still hang on to it for a period of time. And you don't have to pay for that extra storage while it's hanging on to it. And then if you need to go in and recover that, you can do that. Oh, it's deleted. I want to be able to go through and recover it. We can do that for containers. We can do it for binary large objects, for blobs. And so you have a lot of options there. Let me show you how we can configure this. So I am going to go in and go into my storage accounts. Here's my storage accounts. I have one. Now you can do this at the time you create a storage account, or you can do it after the fact. So I'm going to do it after the fact. And what we want to do is we're going to go down into data management and go into data protection. Inside of data protection, these are the advanced versions that we can do. So we can say do operational backups from Azure Backup. We're going to do point-in-time restore for containers. So we will have versions for the folders inside of a blob. A container is sort of like a folder. We're going to do that. So I can do that. And if I say point-in-time restore, it's going to add additional options in there as well to make sure that it is a complete solution. So we're saying if you delete it or if you change it, we want you to be able to recover from that. And what it does a point-in-time restore, and it'll have a maximum of 6 days worth of restore points. Then I could enable soft deletes for blobs. Now, if you go to this point-in-time restore, it's going to set all the other settings for you. But let's talk about each one. This will allow you to do a soft delete for blobs, so that if you delete the entire blob, it's going to hang on to it for 7 days, and you can bring it back. We can also do soft delete for containers. So if it's just a particular container as opposed to the individual file in there, I could turn that on. In fact, I'm going to turn it on there. We're going to keep that for 7 days. Then we also have versioning for blobs. Now, when you're doing versioning, as you have these multiple versions, it's going to take more storage in your storage account, so you are going to have to pay for it. But it is for just the size of that change. So if I only change 1K, then that one little file is going to be really, 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 really small. But it does give you the ability to roll back and roll forth, and all you have to do is pay for whatever storage you happen to be using. So we have that, and then we have versioning for blobs. That's where we do the different versions, and then we also have a blob change feed where we can do reporting, and then we can write scripts to go in and read it if that's what we want to do. So let's go ahead and make the change, turn on our data protection for this entire storage account. So then I will go up into the container and let's make a brand new container. And we're going to call this one way super important. And I will say create. So now I have a little folder, a little container. And inside this container, let me upload a file. Now I teach the Network Plus class. And one of the things that I have is I have this Network Plus cheat sheet. Oh, that one's still hacked. That's why in the old days, I'd have to go in here and grab a copy of it, pull up a backup copy, and then put it back on there. And then we'll save it. So now I have my old conventionally fixed thing. It still says hacked. Control A, Control V. There we go. So now I had to go in and pull it off of a backup tape, and then I copied it in there. So that's the normal stuff. But let me show you how we can do this up in Azure. So I'm going to go up into Azure, and inside of Azure, I want to upload a file. And the file that I want is that Network Plus cheat sheet. Now, it's not to teach the students how to cheat. What it does is it teaches them how these are the steps for being able to do subnetting. And if you want a copy of it, email me, doug.bassett@stormwindlive.com, and you use this process to figure out how to do custom subnets, or you can, come into my class, Network Plus, and I will teach you how to do it as well. So we're going to go ahead and upload this cheat sheet, this little file here, and to make sure that I got the right file, let's go ahead and download it and take a quick look. So this is the file that we have in there. We'll go ahead and open it up, and it is the unhacked version. So now I'm an evil virus, and I'm going to go into that file, and I'm going to put all sorts of nasty stuff. You are hacked. Because you put more K's in there, it looks more important. You're hacked. We'll go ahead and do a file, and then we'll do a save. And let's go ahead, because I'm an evil administrator, let's go ahead and re-upload the file. So I'll say upload, and we're going to grab my hacked version of the Network Plus cheat sheet, and they'll say, oh, you already have one that's in there. Are you sure you want to do that? And I'll say, well, I'm an administrator. Of course I know that should be there. So I'll say overwrite, and we'll upload it, and it overwrites it. So now let's look at the latest version. So we'll bail on this, and then I open up this, and I say download. Then when I download it, oh no, it's hacked. But wait a minute. I put in versioning. Wow, I just turned that on by going into data protection. So I hit here and I say, show me the previous versions. And we just have one. Wait a minute. How do I know that this is the right version? Well, I can go over here and I can download it. I can make it the current version. I can delete the version. I could set a signed access signature to gain access to just this particular version. I can look at the properties. I could change the tier that it's at. I could set up an access policy. I just want to download it. So we download it, and that is that previous version. That is the unhacked version. Whereas if I download this one, which is the active version, and I say download, that is going to be the hacked version. So let's go ahead and roll it back to that previous version. So I click on here, and I say view previous versions. Here is the previous version, and what I'm going to do, I didn't want to grab that. I am going to go ahead and make this the current version. So make it the current version. Alrighty, now you'll notice that I now have two of them, because making it a current version, it takes the old version, makes that a version, and then, or the current version makes that an old version, and this new one that we just restored is on top. And if you have multiple versions in here, you can actually go in and look at each one. So for example, and by the way, these versions are time date stamped. So this was at 0043, this is 0044. If I download this version, that is the previous version. This one right here, download the version, that is the hacked version. So by taking this version and saying, hey, make that the current version, I have rolled it back to that, I keep clicking on it, I have rolled it back to the older version. So now, when I go back in here, and I say, all right, let's go ahead and take a look, and I say, let's download it, open it up, and now it is restored. Now that's for blobs. You can do this automatically for blobs. But with file shares, it's a little bit different. So if I go in and I have a file share, and I'll go into the Doug files, you'll notice inside this file share, I have the Network Plus cheat sheet. And if I go in and I say download it, and I look at it, oh no, this one has already been hacked. I haven't protected it yet. So let's go ahead and delete this bad boy. So we'll say delete it. And then we will go ahead and upload another file. And it's going to be the exact same file that I did before. But now I'm putting it in a file share. And, oh, wait a minute. That's the hacked version. Because it didn't change this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put in the good version on my file here. And there's a good version. So we'll say File, do a save, and now let's go ahead and upload it up into Azure. So go back into here, and we'll say Network Plus cheat sheet. Make sure I'm grabbing the right one. Cheat sheet, yep, that's the one that we want. And we will upload it. So then, just to make sure I got the right version, let's go ahead and take a look at it. So I'll say download. And that is the latest and greatest version. All right, cool. Now here's the problem. With blobs, I can have this versioning happen automatically. It just happens. With file shares, I have to make a snapshot. So I'm going to go over here, and I will say, let's go ahead and make a snapshot of it. So we'll go into snapshots. If we don't have any snapshots, let's add one. And we're going to give it a name, pre-hack. And we'll say OK. And what this does, it makes a snapshot of the entire file share. So then I can go in back to the file here, and let's replace it with the hacked version. Oh, I got to make the hacked version real quick. So we'll go in here and say, and have it say loser. And we'll save it. And then the oblivious administrator will upload it. So we'll say upload. Grab the cheat sheet. Grab the cheat sheet. Overwrite the file. Do an upload. And now we have it uploaded. But if I go back in here, unlike the blobs, here's the issue. I can't see the previous versions. What I have to do is I have to go into the snapshots. So here's the previous snapshot. Now if I go back into the file, let's see if it's hacked. So I'll say download. And we'll see if it says loser. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and go to the snapshot. And we will restore it. So I'm going to say, let's go ahead and, that's a snapshot. This is a manual, and what I want to do is I want to be able to bring it back. And we'll go in here, and we will say restore, and it'll say, are you sure that you want to restore this as a copy and rename it? Nope, we're going to overwrite the original file, and then we'll restore it. Then when I go back, and I look at the actual data itself, let's go ahead and download it, and we will see if it is fixed. And it is. So with file shares, you have to go in and manually do snapshots, and a limitation with this is with file shares inside of Azure, you're limited to 200 snapshots. 200 snapshots. And it's not going to be done on change. You have to say, make a snapshot, make a snapshot, make a snapshot. And you can do that. Now, you could also do this with virtual machines. I could snapshot the drives on a virtual machine, or I could make an image of the entire virtual machine. The idea is you want to have multiple copies of this thing. And so by going in and doing blob versioning, and also doing snapshots and file shares, it can help protect you, but the blobs are going to be more protected. And that's a good thing because we use blobs for our virtual machine hard drives, and that's what we want to do. Now, if you want to know a little bit more information, you could go up into docs.microsoft.com and do a search on data protection overview. So just docs.microsoft.com space data protection overview, it'll bring you to this document, and they talk about all the different things. Now, one thing that I also want to do is for administrators, I worry about administrators going in and deleting stuff that I don't want them to delete. Now, we're talking a storage account. So what I can do on that is in the property of the storage account, so here's the storage account, I can go down to where we have locks. So we slide it down underneath settings, I go into locks, and when I say let's go ahead and add a lock, I can give it a name. We'll say, don't delete me, bro. And then we will say that this is a read-only lock, which means you can look at the stuff, but you can't change anything. Here we can also do a delete lock, which says you can look at stuff and you can change it, but you can't delete it. So if I go in here and say, we're not going to allow you to delete it, I can go in and make all sorts of changes to the management of it, and that includes also going in and deleting individual containers and all that. But if I try to delete the file share, let me show you that. So I'm going to go into my file shares. I'm going to click on the file share that we just had, and I'm going to say delete, and it's going to say, warning, are you sure you want to delete it? Why, yes, I'm the administrator. Let's delete it. And it says you can't because it's locked. It's locked. You can't delete it, so it's going to fail. So that helps to do that protection. Now, if I go back into the document for data protection, one of the things that they talk about is make sure you put locks on the storage account. Also, they recommend that you go in and you do soft deletes for containers if you would like. So you can do a soft delete for container. For blob workloads, I can enable versioning, which I showed you how to do. And if you're going to do data link storage, it's where it's designed to be large. You have to do those manually. But if you're doing like a storage account v2, you can automatically do that versioning. And here they talk about what it does and what happens if you do it, and the recommendations as well as the benefits. So it just has all the documentations. And if you want to know how to do it, for example, how do I do that Azure Resource Manager lock? I can click on here and it links to the document that shows you exactly how to do it. So remember, folks, we're under attack. And if they can encrypt our data, and even if we're making replica copies of it, maybe we're doing geo-replication where we're storing it in two different data centers in different regions, if I make a change here, in other words, encrypt, 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 that's also going to be sent over here. So by doing blob versioning, yeah, it's still going to replicate it if I'm doing geo-replication. However, I can go into the previous versions and then restore it and then delete the bad stuff, or just restore it, or make copies of it, or download it, or whatever I want to do. So remember, you got to look at when you make copies. And by doing this, this blob versioning, anytime there's a change, that's going to be a new copy. So if you do have any questions, let me know. Doug.Bassett@stormwindlive.com. Thanks for coming by, and we hope to see you in class real soon. Have a good one.